my sweet friends, welcome back. I hope you are all doing well. Today we're going to make a fun Halloween project, specifically this adorable little wall hanging, and I created that with my new printable from my shop. Make sure that you stay tuned to the end of the video because I'm also going to share with you these two other projects that I created with that printable. And so if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we'll make it together. So I've got my printable here. This is the dollar download Halloween greeting card printable, and I really wanted to work with this sweet little ghost here, and so that really inspired me to choose a more updated color palette. I am starting with a traditional plaid as my base. I have a layering pattern. There is that sweet little ghost on a tag. I have a sentiment, 2 tickets, and then a background. And so this is really versatile. You can make regular standard size greeting cards as well as a slimline. You can also use that for decor, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm also going to be using this nested set of coved rectangle dies that I picked up when I worked for Cherry Designs. I was with him for a few years, and they have since rebranded into Maker's Movement. I checked on their site on the off chance that maybe this was one of the sets that they carried over, and it was still there. There were also a lot of varieties of this shape. There was some with a punch detail rather than stitching, and then also some that did not have that extra little bit of detail on the inside. They were on sale as well at the time of filming this. I think I'm probably going to go check them out, but they also had some with scallops and some other different shapes, so that might be a resource you can check into. And I found that these work really well for cards, but I tend to use them more for home decor if I'm making a wall hanging or something like that. This is just a unique shape, and so I found these to be very useful. So I've used the die to cut out the base pattern here, and then I've also cut a piece of cardstock, and this is going to be on the back, so it will be finished on the back as well. And I've also cut out 2 pieces of 110-pound cardstock, and I added that to the back of each of these, and that really helps to make it more sturdy. And so I like to just stack these up. Now we have 4 layers of paper, 2 of which are 110-pound, and so this is going to be really well sturdy, and they just line up easy just like that. And now you can see how thick that is. I want to take the layering pattern and add that on top. I ran that through with the die just to get that stitch detail on the top and the bottom, and I'm just going to center that right down the middle. I also want to break up a little bit of that pattern in the back and add a little bit of light to this. So here is a large doily that I cut from a crisp white cardstock. And then I actually printed a second bit of this background pattern so that I could layer it on top. Typically when I make my dollar download cards to share, I try to do them with just one printing, but for this particular project, I did want to have an additional layer of that pattern on top. So I just cut that one with a scalloped circle with a stitch detail. And I think that really kind of helps to bring that background pattern closer up to the front. Here is the printed background, just cut out and added. I'm not putting my layers here because I do want to also include a die cut spider web. And so this is going to add a lot of detail, but since I cut it from the lighter gray, it's not going to be so contrasting, and so it will be a subtle detail. I'm adding that with hot glue right to the center of that background piece. And then here's the tag. I did cut that out right along the printed tag. You can also leave a little bit of the white border, and that would look a little bit more like a packaged ephemera that you purchased. And I also wanted to add a little bit of stickles to this, just once again to add a little bit of detail and a little sparkle. I put an eyelet here and some twine, and then I also popped this up on spacers. So when I do that, I like to add the printable to a piece of 110-pound cardstock. That way it'll be well supported and extra sturdy. And so I'm just going to add that right to the middle of my spider web. And you can see how that is a nice extra added detail I've got my sentiment here, and I put regular double-sided tape on one side and the foam spacers on the other so that it would be even across when it overlaps the edge of the tag. And then I've got my flower arrangement here, and I did create these with my offcuts from my scrap bin. I've got a couple of different tones of that vintagey orange, and it's finished off with some double head stamens from Really Reasonable Ribbon. There is some netting and twine, of course, and rather than green foliage, I decided to go with the gray, and that kind of keeps with the vibe. And so I'm just going to position this and fold those leaves so that I don't overlap the words. It's okay if it goes on the ghost a little bit, but I want to have those words visible. So I'm just going to add that with some hot glue. Now, like I mentioned, I did want this to be a wall hanging, and so I'm going to create that hanger with my chevron striped twill, and I'm just going to see how much of a loop I want and then clip this. I would typically want to cut this at an angle to keep it from fraying, but I don't want it to show underneath my bow. So I'll just go ahead and add that right to the sides here with my hot glue again. This is very porous ribbon, so it will adhere very nicely. Now, to cover those cut edges, I'm going to top them with these bows. I've added some additional loopy twine bows here and a button just to finish that off. And I'm going to just hot glue those right over top of the loop that we added for hanging. I actually wanted to use a couple of little white jingle bells. I thought I had some left over from my Christmas kits, but I only had one. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to stick with buttons. Okay, let's add a couple of charms here, and they're just little pumpkin jack-o'-lantern charms. I tied them with string, and I'm going to hold them in place while I add my glue so that I have these falling exactly where I want them to. And top that with a button to hide the cut strings. Okay, so here is my thought on these sequins. We're just going to add them temporarily to see if it's too busy, and we may decide to take them off. But I did want to kind of preview them just to see how it goes first. Yeah, I think that's all right. But if we put a couple up here too. Yeah, that's good. So let's get these glued down. And that will be the end of our project for today. Now, I have promised myself that I will not decorate for Halloween until at least September. And so that kind of works out for us because we do go for Labor Day to see the Army son and his wife. And then whenever we get back, it is back to school. And Tech Hubby does work for the school system. So he will be back to work and the kids will be back as well. And then I can spend a little bit of extra time decorating the house before I start on our Halloween series. And so that will be coming up mid-September. I did pick up a couple of things already for a haul video so that I can show you what I got. But that will be coming up probably into September, unless I place another order before then. And I'll just want to keep you updated on that. So in case you want to work along with me, some people like to see what I have picked up. So this is our Halloween wall hanging created with the $1 download Halloween greeting card printable. I also like to share with you other ways that I've used the printable. And so here is my first card. This is a very sweet and a simple card. It's not clean and simple because I did add quite a few layers and some flowers, but I did not shape them or add the stamens that are dimensional. And so I just used that combination of patterns and split it along the top here. I've added a smaller doily, the printable tag in the background, and then I've also added those tickets to the sentiment. So it kind of extends beyond the side of the sentiment, and that kind of fills the space even nicer. I also added more sequins to that just to add a little bit of sparkle and of course a little bit of stickles to the image. And then this last card, I did go all out for the dimensional layers and the shaped flowers. So it's a similar layout, but instead I decided to do a double layer of cardstock matting. And then the same doily, this time I split those patterns left to right instead of top to bottom, and so that gives it kind of a different look. And then same background, I use my tickets up here on the top, and then I use my little charms as well. And these are shaped flowers. This one is a magnolia from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I will make sure to link those in the description below, as well as for the printable and all our other social media sites. So you can check that out in the description. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to let me know in the comments and give me a big thumbs up. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.